Welcome, my people. It's another episode. We're here just kicking it, myself and Jay, and we have a special guest today. And going off from our previous episode where we touched on the topic of mental health from a male's perspective, I thought it was only fitting that we do the same, but we talk about mental health from a female's perspective. So we have a individual with us today who I believe is qualified to talk on this topic from both sides of the fence. Someone who's been through services and somebody who is now working with our young people to support them through their journey through life. We've gone through well over 12 months of this pandemic, and it's documented in regards to mental health, domestic violence, and a whole host of issues that's, associated with living life under restriction. So this discussion today will be a very interesting one to see how this person's journey, how they navigated through life and came out the other end. So for those who may not know you, how would you describe yourself?
So my name is Yasmin Blackwood, and how I would describe myself, I'd say I'm the co-founder of I Am My Sister community interest company, which is set up to basically address the invisibility of Black girls and women in terms of policy debates and health and social care services.
Yeah.
And also do a lot of, like what you mentioned, also do youth work within the prison. And just different youth services in the environment. And in terms of where I am today, in terms of mental health and recovery, I say recovery is the process. So we'll get into that later. Yeah, it's still a process.
And you touched on some important bits where hopefully throughout this episode we'll touch on addressing the visibility of the voice. And you work in the prisons as well, so we'll talk on that. But to begin with, let's take it right back to your early years. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Small Heath. I was never really around Small Heath.
Yeah.
So I was always like around family members.
Yeah.
Throughout like primary school growing up, I was because my mum worked full time as well, I was continuously in a play scheme. So I get picked up by the childcare services and I go to it was called the Den, and the BCA.
Yeah. Yes.
I used to go there after school.
And what was the family structure like?
So I'm from a single parent household. So my mom, like I said, she raised me single-handedly. My dad, I didn't really know my dad until I was about 8. I have a brother and sister. They live in London.
Yeah.
But in terms of family and structure, I'd say it was a very close-knit family. My mom had a lot of brothers and sisters. Well, there's 7 of them all together, and all of them have got kids. So we was always around each other. We grew up with each other. We used to do like, some of us used to do martial arts on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to my uncle's after. Like, we had like a little routine, like go martial arts on the Saturday, go Russell straight after, go to my uncle's, chill there. And then on the Sunday, we used to go swimming in the morning. So it was, for me at that time when I was a kid, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
And moving on to late 80s and 90s, and I would say that's when community spirit was nice. We had good music. So we had the 90s hip hop, 90s R&B, house and garage came into play as well. Jungle. So what's your golden era?
See, my golden era is late 90s and early, what they call it, noughties.
Yeah, the noughties. So you're in a privileged position then, because you touched when music was... I'm not saying music's not nice now.
No, it's dead.
But it's not like it used to be.
No, it's dead now.
Pull it out there, really.
They're coming back though. R&B is coming back slowly, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And then moving on now to your teenage years. So we'll say things like secondary school. What was a young Yasmin like then?
I was a rebel. I say a rebel with a cause. I was just, I don't know, I feel like I was kind of a typical, for me and the people that I was around, I was typical like the people I was around in it. But I would say that I experienced a lot of what they would now call like adverse childhood experiences.
Yeah.
A lot of like traumatic incidents or exposure to. I think throughout my teens, like I can say 2006, my uncle and my cousin got shot.
Okay.
And that was something that impacted me as well. I think when I was in year 7, the end of year 7, my granddad passed away. There's a lot of like things that impacted me. So I was just, I don't know. I wasn't bad, but you know, when you just need that support.
You need that support, yeah.
But I did have mentors in school. So I started off going to Holy Trinity and had mentor. I think I had a mentor from like year 7.
Yeah.
But I never really engaged with her. Like she used to come in my classroom and like sit with me. But to me, I felt like that was like some special thing because I didn't need that. I needed like somebody to speak to outside. So I was a bit, what's the word? I guess reluctant to engage with her. But over time, like all the support staff, they were all black. Yeah. So I started to kind of identify and speak to them about certain things. Yeah. And I think that helped. And then I think the start of year 10, I moved to a different school in Kingstanding. Yeah. I had a quote unquote, what do they call it? A managed move.
Yeah, the managed move. So that means, you'd have been disruptive in the previous school. So they had to move you out to...
Basically. And they tell you all that stuff about the YP record and stuff. I don't know if they do or not. But, so I went to a school in Kingstanding called Cardinal Wiseman. That was a bit different. Because it was like a predominantly white school. Yeah. And Holy Trinity is like a good, diverse mix. Yeah. But I think there was just a lot of bad... I wasn't on badness, but I was exposed to a lot of badness growing up.
And in terms of the support, because the early days, when we say mentoring, I think mentoring, I wouldn't say that it was new, but people didn't really understand mentors. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine for you as a young person that's gone through some of those traumas and having to open up to a total stranger, may have been difficult for you at the time.
It wasn't really approached on a thing where to open up to them. It was like, for me, I don't feel like we had an introduction of what a mentor really even was. Do you know what I mean? I just kept seeing you coming in my class and sitting behind me. You never really explained anything to me. I'm just like, move, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just chilling with my friends. Like, I don't need you to be here all the time. Yeah. But I guess over time, like, because I was so harsh in the beginning, and she stuck around, right? So then I feel like I just started speaking to her, and I had the respect because, like I said, like I was hard to manage and I was being difficult because I felt like you was making me feel special. Yeah. But I think it was because she stuck around, like, so I can relate in terms of when I'm working with a young person and they say like hard to engage and hard to reach. Yeah. It's not that you just need to try a bit harder and it changes your technique. Because I guess I would have been defined as one of them hard to reach young people at some point.
And moving to Cardi's, how was that managed as well in terms of the mentor? Did they stay at your old school or did you have access to them moving over to Cardi's?
I didn't have access to anybody moving over. I think, if I remember correctly, I think she might have left the school. Okay. Because towards the end of year 9, year 10, I was in something called the Romero Center, which is like the inclusion center within the school. Yeah. So I worked with a different worker who I'm still in contact with now. But I didn't have any support transitioning over to the other school. You're just thrown in it. Yeah. It's one of them.
And when you said, because you said something interesting, right? And we had an interview with Daniel Rochester a couple of weeks back now. And he mentioned when he moved over to, was it Port Vale? That was a culture shock for him leaving Hockley and then going over to Port Vale. It was complete different culture shock. Yeah. And was that a similar experience for you in terms of moving from your previous school that was predominantly, ethnic minorities in there to a school now that's predominantly white British?
Yeah, because I'd never been around that. Like, all the areas that I'm in are inner city areas, so it's always black or Asian. And I think as well, when you're younger, in terms of the village type of thing, you're always growing up around your own, so it's always your own music, your own culture. So I'd never been exposed to that amount of white people in my life. Like, so to me, I was like, wow, like, this is a bit different. Like the way how people talk, the way how people move. Even like at first, I was like, even the few black kids who were in the school, it's like, you're not really black like the kids like at my other school. Do you know what I mean? Like it's different. So yeah, a major culture shock for me.
And did your behavior change as well in terms of, did it get worse, or was it just continue, you know, the rebel with a cause? Did that continue in the new school?
I think I kind of calmed down in the new school because I didn't have anybody else to bounce off. Like, obviously when I was in my first school, I had my friends that I kind of either knew from primary school or knew from the den, or just play schemes, like holiday play schemes and stuff like that in the area. So I think it was a bit different. I was still getting into trouble, but I think one of the major things for me at my new school was around like the teachers understanding me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because everything's like, oh, I can't remember. I think, you know, when you laugh, but you don't laugh, so you're like, I used to get in trouble and put on report, and the teacher would say I was kissing my teeth, and it had to get to the point where I had to call my mum in and explain to them, like, that's not, like, if this is not what it is, in terms of, I had to show them kissing my teeth, and that's not what I was doing. So you're being putting me on report and disciplining me for something that's not even what you think that is. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of challenges, and I think sometimes it made my behaviour worse, and sometimes it didn't. But I think if I would have stayed, if I'm honest, if I would have stayed in my original school, I wouldn't have got no GCSE. Oh,
okay. And just touching on that topic, it's a shame because you see that now as well, still in the school systems, where I won't say every teacher, but there's some teachers that still have that lack of cultural awareness in regards to, if someone does a facial expression, it's deemed as rude, but you've had to call your mum in to speak to the teacher and say, look, that's not what it is. And it's a shame because I still hear that now, and we're in 2021.
I know.
It's getting better, but there's still individual like teachers that lack of cultural awareness.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't think it's just in the schools. I think it's in everything. Like in every system, service. Yeah. It's in everywhere. But what the buzzword is cultural competency. Yeah. A lack of cultural competency in terms of staff and practitioners. Yeah. And it's impacting the young people.
And so we've moved on now, right? And you've left school. You've left with your GCSEs. Where did your journey take you then? Because that's that transitional year. You're leaving school, starting to carve out a career or your future. Where did your journey take you?
I went to Sutton to do accounting. So I did AAT, Association of Accounting Technicians or something. So I did my level 2, 3, and I think I had like one module of my level 4 to complete. But yeah, so I went to Sutton, but I think a major thing for me in terms of college that changed my path was getting involved in basketball. Okay. Because I'd always played sports throughout like school and stuff like that. But I started playing basketball at college, and then like we had the opportunity to go to Loughborough 2 years.
Loughborough University.
Yeah, for the national sports tournament. So we got to do that for 2 years, and then I just carried on playing basketball. But I think I did my accounting, and then I just used to always be in training.
And what was it like over Loughborough? Because that's quite a big university, like a sporting. That's where all the regional stuff, like regional level things happen at Loughborough. What was your experiences there?
Yeah, it was good because we would leave and we would either stay in like dorms. Yeah. Because we were still in college, so it was just like a national college sports tournament. So there was all the different sports and different colleges from around the country would come. But we were just there for the basketball, innit? Yeah. So all we was interested in was the basketball games. We wait to see the Hackney game. I think it was like Southeast or whatever they represented. But that was always interested in. Shooting hoops and watching the Hackney team smash people. Well, it was good though. We didn't really experience the uni like that because it was literally there for, I think it was just a weekend. Yeah, it was good. It was a good experience.
Good experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So now let's move on now in terms of the year between 2016 and 2017. What were those 2 years like for you if you reflect back?
2016, I was working as a prison officer.
Okay, yeah.
In Brentford. That was hard still, I'm not gonna lie. Don't get me wrong, like it's not that it's hard working with the young people or the inmates or whatever you want to call them. Like it's hard in terms of the system and the systematic racism and the oppression and the things that you experience, and like everybody knows in terms of the excessive use of force in prisons, especially on black males. So to be the only black female officer on the wing, and you've got that rapport with all the young people, like if they've got a problem, they're asking to speak to you, not asking to speak to nobody else. It was just, I think it was just difficult in terms of, again, the lack of understanding, because they see me, or because the staff will see me being able to engage with young people. It caused a problem. Then you have all them conspiracies and like people just making up random things. But I left at the end of 2016 to go to uni, and then in September I started uni to do youth and community work. So I was doing psychology before in 2014, and then I suspended my studies because I had to deal with something around mental health. My uncle who suffered with PTSD, he had an episode where like he attempted suicide. So like I had to kind of deal with that, and then my nan felt ill around the same time the following year. It was just a bit too much, and plus I had my son and I was trying to juggle everything. Into 2016, left the prison to go to uni to do the youth work. 2017, I think like a lot of things in terms of my mental health and working in the prison, that kind of also impacted my mental health because of the level of like racial trauma and things like that. And then in April 2017, so I started my own business when I left to return to the prison to do like violence reduction type of thing. So we'd do like a program course, and then like one-to-one sessions with the young people. So I was trying to get that up and running whilst I was starting uni. In April 2017, I can remember like I had an episode of psychosis, but I didn't know it was that at the time. I thought I was like bipolar. Was this while you was working at Brentford as well, or? No, I left. Yeah, you left. So this was I left in October. It was about 5-6 months later. I wasn't sleeping. Like I see the homeless people, I'd literally take them around the shop, buy them food and that. Like I wouldn't give them money, but I'd take them around the shop and buy them food and just send them off with like bags of shopping and stuff like that. Like just literally emptying my bank. It was mad. It was actually mad. Like I wouldn't sleep. And I think again, like the whole thing for me, something that I can remember during that little episode thing was me saying like, how the family unit is not the same no more, you know, that community in terms of like family and the village type of thing. I remember like that, I kept saying like that's not the same. That was hard still because I had the episode, but nobody really knew except for my mom. Like there was other things that would make it obvious, like the live streams and stuff like that, but nobody really knew. And I remember like I seeked help. So I went to the doctors. I was like, I think I'm bipolar, because I used to have like severe like mood swings as well. For a long time. And I remember going to the doctors and I was like, I think I'm bipolar. It's like, we can send you to do some CBT. I did that for a short, I think it was about 6 weeks. And then in November 2017, I went to Gambia in October, and I came back, and about a week or two after I came back, I got sectioned because I had another episode. But they call it first episode of psychosis because to them it's the first episode. But I could recognize signs that it was before. And that first time of like speaking to someone about it, what was it like, you know, even booking that appointment and going into the doctors for the first time and speaking to someone? Like I had been to the doctors before when I was younger, and I was like, I think I'm depressed. And it was like, I didn't know about mental health, and it's like, I think I'm depressed, and it was like, mentioned something about mental health, and I was like, scrap that. Do you know what I mean? Because you know that mental, it has that stigma to it. So they just gave me a leaflet and was like, you can contact any of these and get support, but I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I can't remember how long ago that was. Going in on that occasion, I just don't feel like they take you seriously.
Yeah.
They just don't take you seriously. Like, they offer you pills. I don't want no pills. I asked for talking therapy and they put me through for some CBT.
Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily what I actually wanted. Like, I wanted to sit down with a counsellor or a psychologist or something and talk about like all my experiences and things like that.
Yeah.
I think a major thing for me was like, I remember I posted it somewhere, I wrote it somewhere as a status.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think I put it on Snapchat, and I was like, if somebody knew the thoughts that go on in my head, I'll be sectioned. And that was a year later. Year later I was sectioned.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's one of them ones, and it like, you know that something's going on and you get them racing thoughts.
Yeah.
Which they'll call like voices and things like that. Yeah, like it's funny when you look back through your history, like not your history, your memories, and you can see certain times and certain triggers for certain things. But it was hard, man.
And being sectioned, talk me through that process as a female now, interacting now with services. How was it for you?
Traumatic.
Yeah.
I think that for many people, especially in the Black community and probably Asian community as well, it is like the way into mental health services is very traumatic, because for us, we're more likely to go in and get sectioned and have involvement by the police. Yeah. And obviously you see all the videos of, it's not just men who get manhandled by police in general, like it's women. Like, what's the woman? Is it Joy Gardner? That back in the day, like I think in the 90s. Yeah. She was from Jamaica, and the police came to her house to deport her. It was meant to deport her. Yeah. And they tied her up on a chair in her front room in front of her kid. Yeah. She died in the front room. You know what I mean? So these are all the things that you'll have running in your head. Yeah. And it's not till you experience set things. So like the day that I got sectioned, I'd come back from Gambia, but my watch was still wrong in it. Like, my watch on my time, the clocks had changed. Yeah. I hadn't changed the time on my watch. Okay. So to me, I'm going by my watch in it. I'm like, I'm going to take my son some food and some breakfast. So like fruit and stuff. Because he was staying at my cousin's at the time. And everyone was like, is that school? Is that school? I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, it's not time. Like, it's 8 o'clock. And I was like, no, it's not. And my mom took me down there. And then I remember like seeing different ones of my cousins just coming out on the road. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, what are you like doing here? Yeah. I mean, I ain't told you like where I am. So how do you know where I am? Yeah. And I think my mom had phoned my auntie, and my auntie told her kids. Yeah. Which is how they ended up there. Oh. But some of my cousins are my triggers in it. Okay. Yeah. You understand? Like, when I say that, it's in terms of the way how they try and treat you. Yeah. Like, they try and talk down to you, and I'm like, don't talk down to me. Yeah. Especially not when my head's in this mindset. So yeah, I remember I walked off, and then the police came. Like, one of my cousins was trying to bear hug me because she thought I was going to go in the road. Yeah. Like, just random things, you know what I mean? Like, she was bear hugging me, and then the police come down and they seen the struggle. Yeah. So then they stopped, and I'm saying to the police, like, because I know as a youth worker, I know like, if you're under 25, you can ask to go to a youth centre as a safe space, right? Yeah. So you can ask the police to take you to a youth centre. So I said to the police, can you take me to this youth centre? Yeah. Like, do we look like a taxi? I'm saying, yo, brethren, you know how much tax I paid? Yeah. Do you get what I mean? Like, the whole attitude and everything. And then one of my other cousins come and basically threw me in his car. Yeah. Drove up the road to my cousin's, because she lived at the top of that road. And yeah, like, I was inside, had a little tuffle with my cousin. They was all trying to stop me from going back outside because the police was there and stuff. Yeah. But I'd asked them what had happened was I'd asked them for my bag. I wanted to shower in it. Yeah. This was it. Asked them for my bag. I wanted to shower. No one's trying to get me the bag. Yeah. It's like, all right, cool. If you don't get the bag, I'm going to go to the car and I'm going to get the bag. Yeah. So no one got the bag. So I opened the door. I backed out to the car. Yeah. Lifted up the boot. As soon as I lifted up the boot, I got the handcuff slapped on. I was taken to is it the I don't know how to say it. It's by QE. I don't know, but it's by the QE anyway. Yeah. And I just remember, like, to me it was a game, innit? Yeah. Like, I'm just saying, like, use like
I'm not talking to none of you.
Yeah.
You need to take all these handcuffs off me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just going to throw you around. Like, I don't want to be here. So I'm just taking it as a game. And like, I kept messing around with the police officers, like cameras and stuff. Like, because they had the camera.
The body cam thing. Yeah.
And I remember one of them tried to manhandle me. And I just remember like swinging them around the room. It was kind of mad. Like, I could have ended up in jail.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Like, the extreme that I was going, because they was doing things to me that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Even to the point where my mum was upset.
Yeah.
And because I've had conversations with my mum about it as well. And the way how they was going on, it's just the usual stuff how they're going on. They just try and manhandle people, and I'm like, I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
And I've worked in the service, and you can ask about me.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying in terms of training and things like that? Like, please remove your hands off me.
Yeah.
And then because I wouldn't engage in the hospital, I got taken to Eden PQ intern.
Okay.
And then, went inside. They said I was going in to do something, and then didn't end up coming back out.
Oh.
I had a fag and all sorts that I wanted to smoke.
Yeah.
They took my fag. Like, walked me in. They was like, I was just going to show you this. Then you come back out and have your fag.
Yeah.
Walked me in. They took my fag. Like, and then I just couldn't go. Like, couldn't go anywhere. Didn't get a chance to speak back to my mum because my mum was speaking to the doctors.
Yeah.
And I just remember I was kicking off in it because obviously to me, you said I can go back out. You just wanted to show me something, innit?
Yeah.
You haven't let me see my mum now.
Yeah.
Like, you've locked me in. You're not even letting me have a cigarette.
Yeah.
I'm asking to speak to the doctor. The doctor's walking past and ignoring me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going off on one. I'm like, you like must think I'm an idiot. And I think as well, what triggered me in terms of the PQ is the servery.
Yeah.
So, you know, like in a prison, they have the servery area in it.
Yeah.
Where they eat and everything, just in terms of the healthcare hatch, the servery, it just looked like a prison. It looked like the enhanced unit of the prison, like for the good boys, basically.
Yeah.
So I was a bit skeptical of that, and I felt like I was being watched. And I had this thing where I felt like I was being watched. So the silver, I don't know what they're called. You know when you have them silver circle things on the ceiling?
Oh yeah, they've got the cameras.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm saying to them, I know there's a camera in there. There's no cameras in there. We're not allowed cameras.
Yeah.
But I know there's a camera
There's a
in
camera,
there.
yeah.
And they're like, no, there's not. So little things like that. You're trying to tell me I'm mad, but I know there's a camera in there. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all these things are equating to me being mad. And then, I remember them trying to show me my room. And it looked like the enhanced unit room on the wing.
Yeah.
So the boys could have a key to the room, but the officers could lock it once it was inside.
Yeah.
So I said, let me have a look. And I remember putting my head behind the door. And then I heard an alarm and about 7 staff come running and they're trying to restrain me. And my room was next to the inclusion unit, which was like this seclusion. Like, basically they tried to put me in there. I was just fighting with them. And then I got pinned down. All my trousers down, injected me with about 2 or 3 injections, and I just remember going mad after that.
Yeah.
Like, I just went nuts because, again, re-triggering, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's different things that I've been through in life. I've been pinned down and I've had to fight.
Yeah.
Who are you to hold me down and pull my trousers and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, all these things are things that I bring up when I work with professionals.
Yeah.
It's just insensitive. And
it's the lack of understanding from them, because you're acting in a particular way, but they don't know, the back history of, all you want is, at the time, you just wanted your bag.
Mm-hmm.
It's something simple can just get escalated into where it didn't really need to.
Yeah, definitely. Because even when I was at the hospital by QE, I remember like everybody was outside. Like when I say all my cousins were outside, that's how I even managed to get the cigarette in the first place. They passed it me through the window. Yeah. It's about 15 people outside. Yeah. And when I'm in my house, because this has been going on for a few days, innit? Yeah. Before I got sectioned. Yeah. So like I'll be in my house and then I'll be in the kitchen or outside smoking. Come back in. My front room's full of people. I'm like, Brethren, you ain't here on a normal day, so what are you doing here now? Yeah. And that again is triggering, like, why are you here? Yeah. Because you're not here on a normal day. You don't check for me on a normal day, so why are you here? Yeah. So there was so many different things, but I can understand, like, there was even a time when I was taken to the church, and that was a madness in itself. Yeah. The pastor guy was talking about his
rebuke the devil, and then I'm saying, brethren, allow me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going outside. All of you who believe this stuff, then I'm not knocking it.
Yeah.
To me, that's not my belief in it.
Yeah.
But to bring me to a church and try to do some exorcism, it's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
There were so many just little different things, and I think because I'd come back from Gambia as well, and there was some stuff with some judgment.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother story, but yeah, like even my cousin who was in Gambia, like that also played a part. Like it was just mad.
Yeah. And it goes, especially the conversation that we had with Dan Man talking about his piece around black anxiety. And then it took us on a journey in regards to, especially in the ethnic community, that lack of trust from services, the lack of trust from even our own. We don't trust each other. And it's that anxiety where if you see your counterpart, and you've already described it in terms of, you know, your cousins will be at yours. It's like 15 of them. What are you doing here? It's the lack of trust sometimes. And then, you know, even when you got sectioned and they're saying, well, just go into this room here. There's a, you know, I know that's a camera and you're telling me it's not a camera. It's that lack of trust from, you know, professionals that builds up our own anxieties. The police, when they, you know, slap the handcuffs on you, you know your rights, and you're saying to them, just take me to a youth service, which is a safe place. Well, yet they're not doing that. Do you think we're a taxi? It's that lack of trust, and it's ingrained.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think another part of it was the lack of trust in the NHS as well, because like I said, when my granddad died, he'd been ill for a minute.
Yeah.
And he'd had scans, and then they'd be like, oh, there's nothing wrong. Yeah. And they'd said that they'd seen a shadow on the scan. And anybody who knows, when you see a shadow on the scan, it's a tumour or cancer or something. You know what I'm saying? And even I knew this at the age of 12. Yeah. And so they was like, oh, it's nothing. And then they redid the scan. Yeah. About a month later. And then there was like, oh yeah, he's got cancer. He's got about 2 months to live. Yeah. But you missed it earlier. We all seen it and you missed it. So therefore, I'm now blaming you for the death of my granddad. And that's something I've carried since I was, 12? Yeah. And there's other things in terms of the NHS. I don't trust it. Well, my whole thing was I don't trust the NHS. So when mental health professionals are coming out to do assessments, they got an NHS lanyard around in there. Yeah. I don't trust NHS to come out my house. And that was my whole attitude, which is how it escalated to being sectioned. Yeah. Because I think upon reflection, there was ample opportunity for crisis team and stuff to intervene. Assessments. Yeah. Because I remember seeing them in my house. But to me, it's like, I don't do NHS. And I don't know why all you people are in my house. Like you said, it's that thing where I just want to be left alone, innit? Yeah. And it can be overwhelming. Like a lot of people, especially if your thoughts are racing, it can be very, very overwhelming to consistently have people around, and especially people who, I go off energy in it. Yeah. So if your energy is negative and you're just continuously negative, I can feel it. Yeah. I don't want to be around you. Mm-hmm. So when you still keep coming around, it's gonna make me react in a certain way because I don't want you here. And people, I know that at the moment in time, people do the best that they can in it. Yeah. And what they know, because that is another thing, like the taboo subject, like the lack of education around mental health in the black community and stuff like that. But yeah, it can just be very, very overwhelming.
And what was the diagnosis? Did you get the diagnosis when you were sectioned, or was the diagnosis before?
I think mine is still a working diagnosis, but what it is they call it brief psychotic episode disorder. Okay. So it's triggered by a high amount of stress. Yeah. Or trauma. Yeah. And it can last for like 7 days. So it will trigger like a psychotic episode for like about 7 days. Yeah. But fortunately, it's like since I had my episode and I was sectioned, I haven't had another episode. So I'm grateful for that, because I've been able to like identify when I'm starting to slip and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, that's my working diagnosis.
Do people treat you differently from the diagnosis than how they would treat you before?
No one don't know my diagnosis. Oh, okay. They just know I had a breakdown. Yeah. And I was in hospital for a week and I came out. Yeah. Yeah, like they just know me for having an episode of psychosis. Like I am not my diagnosis in it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't people don't treat me differently though. I think one of the major things, because I did an interview, like I interviewed a few people for a uni project, because I was at uni as well.
Yeah.
When this all happened. And I did like a little interview with a few people, like my sister and my friends and stuff, and people who were around.
Yeah.
When it happened. And I think that one of the biggest things was like, people was thinking like, oh, am I going to come back as my normal self? Do you know what I mean? Like, because once you get on the drugs and the medication and stuff like that, it can change you as a person. But I don't take medication, so I'm fortunate in that sense, and that to kind of be able to have. I wouldn't say I'm still my old self, because you're always changing in it. Yeah, but I think I'm a better version of who I was then. Yeah,
this is going back years now, but I listened to an interview Frank Bruno did, and he mentioned that when he got sectioned and came back home, he said his neighbours and people around him treated him slightly different in terms of, because mental health is something that you can't see, and it has that, you know, in the media it's loaded with fear as well. Sometimes, you know, people crossing the road and so forth, and I always reflect back on that and think that's probably one of the reasons why, especially in the Black community, if we're kind of like struggling or we've got issues, we tend to try and deal with them ourselves in our head and not speak to anybody. But throughout that process, things could be getting worse because you're not talking about it, or you're not sharing it. And again, you have the lack of trust as well. Well, who shall I say this to? If I do say it to them, how would they perceive me, or would they tell someone?
Yeah.
Is that something that you find, especially in our community?
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
Hands down. And I think that the worst thing is, well, the good thing is that once people start talking, they see that they're not the only one. The bad thing is when you do, I don't want to say wallow in your thoughts, but when you allow yourself to get lost in your thoughts, it can be hard to drag yourself back. Yeah, like them negative thoughts can be, again, just like overwhelming, and you don't want to share, because like I said, the year before I got sectioned, I made a post and said if anybody could hear the thoughts that was going on in my head, I'd be sectioned. And once I started talking the thoughts that was in my head, at the same rate, at the same speed that they was coming to my head, I got sectioned, because it was called, like, what did they call it? Disorientated thoughts or something like that. Which is basically like when your thoughts are going fast, and when you're talking, it all kind of jumbles up in it. Yeah. So I could be talking about one thing, and by the time I get to the end of the sentence, I'm on a whole different subject. But to me, I make sense because I've gone through the whole thing in my head. Yeah. So them things, it makes you mindful. I'm not gonna lie. After I had my episode, I'm even all now. Yeah. Like, I'm very mindful of things that I say. Like, if I can feel myself that I'm kind of slipping. Yeah. I won't say too much. Like, I will hibernate in my house, like, because of that risk of, like, people. Sometimes you don't want people's input in it. You want that support, but I don't want you to be telling me this and telling me that, like, you don't know in it. So that's a major thing. Sometimes you just want somebody to listen. You don't want them to be giving their advice and judging you. You just need that space, that safe space, basically. So that's why I try to provide that for people. But it can be tiring.
And moving on to the work that you're involved in now, I want to touch on the work in regards to the female voice. Talk to me about that work that you're involved in.
Basically, we set up the organisation, I Am My Sister. I personally, so there's me, a lady called Suzette Conderson, who's a psychotherapist. Yeah. And then Dan, your Rochester. And we just basically set it up because, like I said, like, my experience of the mental health service and of other services. So you'll even have, like, in terms of labour, or like pregnancy and stuff, maternity and stuff like that. Everything, in nearly every section, you'll notice that they talk about the Black men. Yeah. But you never really hear them talk about Black women. And I think for me, when I started it, it was because I kept going to conferences. Yeah. And these conferences were talking about, okay, county lines, CSA, mental health of Black boys, youth violence. And I'll sit there respectfully. And be like, okay, cool. Like, you're right. Bang on. You're right.
Yeah.
But you see these same black boys that you like are talking about, and these same black men that you like are talking about,
Yeah.
have their black sisters, their black girlfriends, their black moms. Do you understand what I'm saying? That they go home to at night. So when they're going through this trauma, who do you think that they're taking when they're having an outburst in private or whatever, and their breakdowns or whatever? Who do you think has to deal with that?
And this is why I really wanted to. I'm glad that Daniel introduced us to you, because now, before you said that, I didn't look at it in that aspect. I didn't really see that side of it. So I'm really glad that you've brought that up, to be fair, because that's something that I'm learning now.
Nobody ever sees it, and that's why we're so invisible. Like, it's the same thing when in terms of how many black women, especially I wouldn't even say just black women, but since we're talking about black women, and that's what I like to talk about, because that's my experience. How many black women that date people who are on the road, whether that's selling drugs or just involved in like violence and stuff like this, who are involved in like some kind of domestic violence at home. See, when my man's lost his money and he's coming home and he's pissed, and she might say the wrong thing, and he ends up bossing her off. Do you know what I mean? Who's supporting her? Because everyone's so focused on him because he's involved in the life. When he goes to jail, she's at home looking after the kids. She has to send the money if she does it. Do you get what I'm saying? She has to make sure that he's good when he's inside. But there's no support for her. She still has to continue to go on to work or raise the kids like nothing happens. And what happens is that a lot of them I think it's a similar thing to what you said before about that trust in it. Nobody starts talking, so they're just dealing with it alone. And it's not until things get very, very bad that we might find out about it. Until he's gone to jail. Or until something serious has happened and you start to hear the stories. I even think in terms of, because one of my things as well is sexual violence. So I think in terms of like the DVS thing, when all that stuff come out about DVS and that rape thing, I don't know the full ins and outs of it. And I never really read the story, but say man was talking about it, I'm saying, but hold on a minute. How many times you pinned down a girl in your yard? She said no, you thought she was joking, you pinned her down. How many times? Because I've had to kick down about 10, man. And they were my friends.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? They were my friends. Had a little bit too much drink, got a bit too happy. I'm saying, yo, chill out. Chilling out. But who talks about it? We don't talk about it.
It's that culture as well. Again, I don't want to say it's just because it could happen in all different races, but I want to talk about the ethnic, our culture. As you said, that's what we know. And it's that sweeping under the carpet or not talking about it. Or if you do tell someone within your family, the advice that, you know, I wouldn't say all the time, but the majority of the time they will say, okay, let's just deal with it as a family. Let's not let such and such know, or don't tell your cousin or your auntie. Let's just deal with it together.
You see how they go around it though. They will work that out together. You see, when it comes to the future, you will tell such and such, don't make your kid go around such and such. You just in a subtle way, you'll make sure that individual who did that is never left alone with the kids. So it's not very subtle, because you know, do you get what I'm saying? Because you're still protecting the kids in a different way. Rather than reporting the person and saying, okay, you're a registered sex offender, you shouldn't be around kids. Nobody does that. You don't want to do that. There's so many parts to it. Like, that's why I started the thing, because I just think there's so many ways to look at it. Any conversation you can have about the experience of a black man, you're still gonna have to tie the mom to it, the sister to it, the daughter to it, the girlfriend to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So how can we be so invisible and our voice don't be heard? But everybody's so concerned about the black man.
And in terms of I and my sister, how does that work? Is it a group that, you know, you meet, well, under these conditions? Imagine it's probably done over Zoom now, but is it something that you do weekly?
Basically, it started off every 2 weeks on a Saturday. And between 7 and 9 o'clock, and we'll do it on Zoom. So we just do like a virtual safe space for, started off as an hour. I think we're an hour and a half. We extended it to 2 because based on the feedback and stuff. But at present, throughout February, we're going to be doing it every week. And the focus throughout the month is just around parenting. So like parenting, co-parenting, parenting from a place of fear and guilt, parent shaming and blaming. So everybody just coming and sharing their experiences on that. We've had, since we started it, we've probably had about 8 new women drop in and engage in the conversations. It's relevant at the moment, especially during this pandemic. Parenting at the moment, it's not easy. It
isn't. Homeschooling and everything.
It's not easy. So we have the women's one that's every Saturday, and then for the girls we started doing it's called Time Out. So the women's one's called Spaces for Listening, and the girls one is called Time Out, and that's Tuesdays and Fridays at 6:30 till 8 p.m. And we just talk about different topics. So that started 2 weeks ago. So probably just talked about like the impact of COVID on the young girls. So this for girls between 14 and 19. Like mixed race girls. And they've just been speaking about like COVID, the impact it's had in terms of exams and stuff like that. Talked about the recent case of youth violence with the incident that happened to Keon. Setting targets. We spoke about setting targets, and they set some targets that they want to achieve for the next 3 months. And just careers, just anything that they want to talk about, and it's just that safe space where they come, and then at the end of the session we'll ask them like, what do you guys want to focus on next week? Is there anything in particular? And then for the girls as well, we do mentoring. We offer mentoring service. So that's it at the moment.
And I do believe again from these discussions that I've been having, is something like that's really important, because these young people, they're going through in terms of friends that may have lost their life due to, violence. They've got friends that may be living at home and they're going through domestic violence. So having a safe space for them to talk openly and freely if they need to is an important thing for them to have.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a major part of it as well, again, is that sense of mutuality, just being in a group with other girls, sharing your experience. Because I think some of the girls who were in there, they've never met each other before. And then they come and they start speaking, and when they get comfortable, they come on the camera, start talking about their experiences, and then they realise like, okay, cool, there's somebody else who, because during the first session there was 2 young people. So one's in year 11, one's in second year of college, and both of them have dyslexia. So we didn't know that, but they was able to come, and then it turns out that the one that's in college, she goes to the same college that the young person who's in school applied to.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so they were just talking about their experience of college and what support's available in terms of dyslexia services and stuff like that. So it was just good for them to come, and the feedback from it has been really positive. They've enjoyed it, and I think as well it's focusing on still building on communication skills and social skills, because at the moment a lot of kids are just in their house, probably on TikTok, Snapchat. But they're not really engaging with anybody, having no meaningful dialogue. So I just think it's important for them to have that. And another thing was that it was set up by one of the young girls that I mentor. So it was her idea. And I made her write out like the description for the project and everything like that. And then I just put it out. So it's basically what they want. Why they want it. That's what I'm trying to do.
And that just shows the power of communication. Because here you have 2 girls, one at college, one applying to go to the college that one's at. But without that communication, you would never know. I can imagine the one at college could probably help her as well in terms of, the application process, and just talk to her in terms of, when you're in college, this is the support that you can tap into or access for your dyslexia if you need to.
So with the girls, we're gonna do like a youth ambassador thing. So we're gonna get 8 to 10. Hopefully by the end of the year. So get 8 to 10 of girls, and kind of train them up as like peer support, like peer mentors. And there's about 3 or 4 of them that are interested so far. But just similarly to like what you said, just to be that kind of put in place like a buddying system type of thing, just to support, like a big sister type of thing, just to kind of support each other. and walk you through the steps and have somebody a bit closer to your age.
Yeah.
But they will be like fully trained. And I'm currently doing a peer support. Wow. I've just finished the module peer support training for mental health, and fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I've got a meeting this week to kind of meet with the director of the organisation who've done the training to set up like a cultural competency one, but for young people, so that I can like create a program and deliver it for the young people and kind of build them into the legacy of I Am My Sister, because it's not just for me, Suzette and Dan. Do you know what I mean? I want it to be any women or volunteers who come in, whatever your goals are, I will find a way to kind of put that project together or help you to put that project together. And
I think going back as well in terms of why myself and Jay set up this platform, we've been having a lot of discussions, and just hearing you, it shows that as a community or individuals, how far you're pushing moving forward, being in the room or having a seat at that table where big decisions are being made. Again, I was speaking to a youth worker a couple of weeks ago. I said, how many times have you seen the commissioner of that service? And he said, never. But these are people that are writing checks for things that are happening in the community. Yeah. So just you talking about, the work that you're doing now, it's good that you're positioning yourself where your voice can be very strong. And you've got the experience from both sides of the fences as well, so you can make impact using your voice as a vessel, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think since I had my episode, I've done a lot of stuff with Forward Thinking Birmingham in terms of like expert by experience. Yeah. So I deliver at University of Birmingham every year. It's normally in January, and then Coventry University in March on the doctorate clinical psychology course alongside the senior psychologists of the early intervention team. Yeah. And I just basically deliver on like the intersectionality. So that's like how being black, female, 25, I think I was at the time, from a Caribbean background, like all the intersections, like your religion, your gender, your sexuality, how all of them shape, where they intersect and how that shapes your reality as a person. Yeah. So I basically deliver on that, and in terms of mental health, and then I'll go through like some of the traumas that I've experienced, but I know that other women have experienced who are in my circle, and how that kind of impacts, and how to make services more culturally sensitive or culturally competent, and things like that. And I think in terms of for the other person, the other youth worker who you spoke to, I have been fortunate enough to sit with the lead psychologists on certain pathways, and like the assistant director of nurses, mental health nurses and stuff like that, and share my story to the point where they've actually wanted to hear more or be more involved. So like I've got some stuff coming up, hopefully, that I can set up with Forward Thinking Birmingham to work with the young girls, and specifically young black girls, and they understand the importance of it as well. So I am kind of fortunate to be, especially in terms of the mental health area, I'm in a fortunate position to make my voice be heard. And my saying is kick down doors, isn't it? Yeah. I kick down doors and shake tables for the next generation. That's exactly it.
You're definitely needed. Before we wrap this up, right, I do want to have a little bit of an understanding, because you work in the prisons. You work in the prisons now as well. You do some work in there now. Yeah. What's it like for the young people in terms of support for, I don't want to say just mental health, but in terms of support for the young people in prisons?
There's support. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say there's not support. There is support. Whether or not that support is, I don't know how to say it. There's support available. Yeah. But if we're talking about the young black boys and the Asian boys, and like say quote unquote BAME, as much as I hate that word, but non-white, there is support available, but whether they use that support because of the lack of representation in terms of the practitioners, it's very low. Yeah. But I think that I've had several conversations with a lot of the young people, and they do access the services. Yeah. And I think that I've kind of drilled it into them, because I tell them set things that I've experienced in terms of traumas growing up,
and how, yes, it did create, I felt I was fine and I could soldier on through.
Yeah.
And it caught up to me when I was 24 and then bang. You get what I mean? I was in hospital. So I think that they're starting to understand the importance of working through the stuff before it goes into anything else. But as well, I think that they do understand that there's a difference between getting the help now and when on the outside, because when they're on the outside, and this is something that they've said to me openly, they don't have time to focus on their mental health and the stuff that they've been through. Yeah. Yes, they've been stabbed. Yes, they've been shot after how many times, but they don't have time to go and sit with a doctor once a week. Yeah. To dedicate that time to kind of exploring how that's impacted them. Yeah. But because they're in prison, they've got nowhere else to go.
And it's more higher on the agenda. When they're in the community, it's low down on their agenda. And it goes back to, and that's why I always say the lack of trust is multi-layered. Because if you look at the prison system, there's a lack of trust in the system. You look at the health system, there's a lack of trust in the health system. So it's multi-layered because it's historical.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, all individuals have their own pathway or their own journey. And it's that pathway that creates their, I would say, anxiety towards system, whatever they've gone through. My journey probably different from Jay's journey. Your journey is different from mine. But if we all look at our journeys, there will be similarities in terms of we've gone through things that will put our defenses up when it comes down to authority or services.
Yeah, definitely.
If someone wanted to work with you or get in contact with you or even get involved in, you know, I Am My Sister, or, you know, if they wanted to join one of the Zoom classes, how could they?
For the I Am My Sister, you can contact us at, the Instagram is IAMMYSISTER. .cic. That's on Instagram and Facebook. Twitter is the same, so but it's got no dot, so Twitter is I Am My Sister CIC.
Yeah.
You can email us at iammysister.cic@gmail.com. For me personally, because I am doing my branding stuff outside of I Am My Sister, so if that's anything to do with like mental health and sexual violence and stuff like that, you can contact me on my own Instagram, which is at Miss Blackwood. So that's MZ and then BLACKWOOD.
Yeah.
On Instagram, and Twitter and anything else.
Yeah. I would say keep up all the good work. There's a lot of directions this discussion could have went down today, because you touched on some things that I wanted to explore. But I think that's another interview, because we'll be here all night. I'm really interested in your first period as working in the prisons, and that journey, how that journey was, the qualifications. Because when you said you worked in the prisons, I was like, okay, then from, you know, the financial, you did the accountancy courses and then the prisons. So I was interested in that, but I do believe it would have took us off topic.
The quick answer to it was I wanted to do forensic psychology, and you couldn't do a placement in a prison unless you was on a master's or a PhD. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm going to see if I can do it part-time and while I'm doing my course in it. But I ended up having to quit drop out of uni because of personal stuff. So that's how it ended up in there. I was like, I'll just be an officer for a quick year or something just to get.
Was it a prison officer at the time when you was working?
Yeah.
You was working as a prison officer?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's a different life, man.
Yeah. That was an interesting, do you know what? I really wanted to dig into that. But I thought, you know what? Let's stay on topic. Because we will bring you up here for another interview. Yasmin, thanks for coming up. You know, your journey. And this is why we like to put out the positive narrative as well, because there's a lot of people in the community that are doing things, and it shows that you are definitely kicking down doors and shaking tables. And we want to use this platform, right, to spotlight things like that. Continue using your voice. I've learned something today in regards to where you said, you know, the female's voice. I didn't look at it in that aspect. So for the listeners, I hope they picked that up as well. But continue doing what you're doing. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us. And the last question I want to ask is, if you could go back and speak to the younger you, knowing what you know now, being involved in the services, if you could speak to a younger you, what advice would you give?
That none of the systems are made for us.
Yeah.
But I feel like I already kind of knew that when I was younger. But
Yeah.
Definitely the older that I've got, I've noticed that the systems are not designed for us.
Yeah.
So it's either change the system, or create your own.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm on right now.
Yeah. Well, wish you all the luck. If we can help in any way, or if we can provide a platform for you to come up and promote something, just give us a call.
I will do. Thank you for having me as well. It's been great.
Thank you. Peace out, people. Until next week.